Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Unstoppable Mindset. I'm really glad that you're here with us. We're always glad to have you come on board, and we try to get interesting people. And the reality is, I think everybody is interesting. I think everyone has a story to tell, but sometimes people don't think they have interesting stories to tell. So it's my job to get them to tell me enough that I can make the story interesting. But I don't think we're going to have any problem today. Our guest is Mitzi Ocasio, and I was on Mitzi's podcast, Let's Think About It podcast. And I told her that my charge for being on her podcast was she had to come on mine. Isn't that fun? Um,
It is.
yeah, I know. And of course, the rule of coming on Unstoppable Mindset is that you got to have fun or you can't come on the podcast. So it works out really well. But anyway, we're glad you're here, Mitzi. I want to welcome you, and we're looking forward to chatting today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be on your podcast. I know after having you on my podcast, it was a no-brainer to join you on yours. And I listened to a few of yours and with your guests, and it's amazing what we can do in such a little bit of time of sharing our souls and our part of our lives with other people. And hopefully other people can really take it into consideration.
I hope that they do. And I hope that they listen and they learn stuff. I believe that everyone has, as I said, stories to tell. And hearing those stories helps to show us all that we can be more unstoppable than we think we can. But more
Mhm.
important than that, I think everyone has things that they can teach us. And so I really enjoy being able to bring that out. So here we go. Anyway, why don't we start with kind of you telling us a little bit about the early Mitzi growing up and all that?
Yeah, no problem. I grew up in Wisconsin, born and raised. I Oy, I don't know how to explain it. I guess I came from humble beginnings, I guess you can really say. I had to learn how to work with what I had. That was one thing that my mother always taught me was work with what you got because we don't got the money to get what you need or get what you may want. So work with what you got. And I've always lived with that mindset of working with what I have or learning the skills to obtain what I don't have and have it, so that has always been something that embedded in me, that go-getter mindset. And I've always loved life, just that curiosity and to learn and to know that there's more out there than what I know or what people have told me. And I think that yearning for learning has allowed me to do other things in my life. So I think one of the things that what made me realize that I loved learning was the fact that I barely went to school. We moved around a lot growing up. I moved, oh my goodness, from all different parts of Wisconsin to the East Coast and Connecticut and New York, moving over there a few times and back and forth, and never really having stability where I went to 6 grade schools, 7 middle schools, and 3 high schools. And then I wasn't even in a school for almost a whole quarter. And I always had that doubt of like how smart I was until I went into college and I realized I am smart. I know what I'm doing. If I just put my head to it, I can achieve so much more than what I can even know. And I think that's the beauty of life is that when you take the step forward to make that initiative that you want to know this for yourself, then you realize that anything is possible. Like you are truly capable of anything. And that's the reason why I started writing. I started writing my novel, and that I'm still currently finalizing the little details on my last draft. And I published 4 children's books, and oh my goodness, I love my children's books, and I love children because they're like sponges. They can absorb so much information, and all they want to do is feel seen, feel heard, and just be a little silly. And I think with being a children's author, it allowed me to just step into that ability to just be silly, be seen, and allow the kids to know that you're still valuable. So that's what led me also to my podcast. My podcast, like Michael mentioned, is Mitzi, let's think about it, where if you can think about it, we can talk about it. And it's a beautiful environment because it allows people like Michael and so many others to really share their story, share their mind in a way that other people have come to me and they're like, wow, I never have thought about it in this manner. And that's my whole goal is to have people just think in a different way. So yes, that's a little bit about me.
How come so many schools and so much moving around?
My mom was very unstable. She didn't really have the funds or finances, so whenever my grandfather or grandparents were able to help, they would send them over and send us over there to the East Coast. And whenever my mom or dad got back together, we would come back to Wisconsin. And then when my parents finally got divorced, the struggle of finances led us to living in shelters. And so we lived in shelters for a bit too. So with the instability of shelters, that had us move around from up north to
Mm.
down south, you know what I mean? All these different places. So, I mean, it was just the inconsistency of money.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have on my mom, I am the youngest of three on my mom's side. And then on my dad, I am number four out of six kids.
Wow. So nine
Hmm.
altogether. That's a bunch. Well,
Yeah.
how do you think, well, the moving around and living in shelters and so on, and not necessarily having a lot of wealth and so on, how do you think that has shaped you?
I think it has helped me see life in a different perspective. Kind of like how I was saying earlier, how it just helped me see life as this appreciation and this sense of gratitude, knowing that nothing is old. I don't have an entitled mindset. I most definitely stay humble because of my upbringing, and it makes me realize whatever that I do and whatever I put forth out into the world, it makes me feel good because I know it's not coming from anyone else. It's coming sincerely from my heart in a place of sincerity. So I think I've turned the negative into a positive because despite my limitations, I was able to still to make the most out of it.
So when you say you have limitations, what are those?
I mean, what can money buy?
Got
You know
it.
what I
Okay.
mean?
I just
Money
wanted
can
to,
buy so much when it comes to
yeah.
that type of limitations.
But on the other hand, from a mental um, and spiritual and internal situation, that's a whole different story as far as limitations.
Oh, yeah, I think growing up it made me see the value of money differently, and it made me see the value of family and friends differently, and just the unity of togetherness differently. And I think that's something that money can't buy.
Yeah. Well, and it can't. And
Hmm.
ultimately, that's an internal kind of thing. And I think it'd be wonderful if more people would realize that um, what's more important than lots of financial riches is the richness that you have within your own psyche.
Yeah, exactly. It's that mental development, that spiritual development. It takes time, but when you give yourself that time to develop, it changes your world.
Yeah, it really does. Makes for a whole
Hmm.
different kind of situation. What did you major in college?
I majored in psychology when I first got out of high school, and then when I tried to go back, a couple years ago, I majored in accounting. But since money ran out, I kind of had to drop out.
Yeah. So have you actually graduated with a bachelor's degree yet?
No,
Not yet.
no, no.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, you started in psychology. What made you go into accounting?
Um, I got into accounting to try to be practical.
Got it.
And yeah, just to really try to be practical. And plus I had a job that I was a sales tax accountant, and I really kind of enjoyed it. I actually didn't realize I enjoyed dealing with numbers and things like that. So I figured why not go into accounting if it's more practical. But money ran out when it comes to financial aid.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. So do you still work as a sales tax accountant
Oh no, no, that was a few years ago. But now I just do the podcasting and children's books for now.
and writing? Yeah, so
Yeah,
podcasting and
writing.
writing. Cool. What does your husband do?
My husband, he works as a maintenance tech. So he works for a maintenance tech for a company like a couple blocks away where they they manufacture fruits and vegetables and distribute it out to like fast food restaurants and things like that. So he deals with the machinery portion of it.
Got it.
Mhm.
So it's only a couple blocks away from where you live?
Yeah, yeah,
Does
not
he
that
walk to
bad.
work or drive?
Oh, he drives, he wouldn't walk.
Okay. Well, and in the winter when there's a lot of snow, I'm sure that that's um, a very relevant thing to do anyway. I must admit that I've had several jobs in my life where I worked for companies that were not located near where I was located. A couple of times I actually did go into an office, but sometimes I worked from home. And I like
Mm.
working from home, actually. I've learned the discipline of when you got to do things, you got to do them, and you make sure that you deal with that priority. So for me, uh, the walk to work is walking out of the bedroom, taking one step and taking a right hand turn, or two steps maybe, and then taking a right hand turn, and I'm in the office. So that works.
Yes, yes, it's a different way. I used to have to be a CNA before, and when I used to have like private clients, the discipline and staying consistent and being on time really molded me. And even when I was an IT tech and I worked from home, that was always interesting too because I only had to get up and get to my desk and I'll be good to go. But I think it's that structure that always still lived with me when I was a CNA.
Well, I think it's a good discipline to have.
Hmm.
Of course, the other side of it for me is that when my cat gets hungry, she yells at me until I come in and pet her. She likes to get petted while she eats, and I have to go in and pet her. When I travel, the number of times I have to pet her goes way up when I come home. So she yells at me because I'm gone, and she probably thinks she's punishing me, but that's okay.
Oh my goodness, cats are something else. I ended up adopting a cat for the first time because my husband was like, "Let's get a cat. I need something to love and love me." But the cat ended up loving me more than my husband, and I had to get one of those automatic feeders for my cat because I got so tired of him trying to wake me up in the middle of the night and sit on my face like, "Who are you? Like, get away from me." Now I have to close the door just so I could get some real rest at night because the amounts of need I didn't know how needy cats can be. Like cats are very needy. They demand a lot. They're
They
pretty
do.
invasive.
They can be when somewhere probably around 2021 or 2020, my cat decided that she liked me petting her while she ate. But she didn't bother us during the night. And then my wife passed away in November of 2022. So we were married 40 years. And then Stitch the cat would sleep next to me and she would start waking me up during the night. And so I told her when she started that, here's the deal, Stitch. You can wake me up once during the night, but there's no double dipping. Only once will I get up and I will ignore you the rest of the time. And mostly she's really been pretty good about that, actually.
Yeah.
During the day is a different story, but at night, yeah, she'll wake me up once, somewhere between 12 and 2, and then from then on, she'll sleep the rest of the night, and then she'll get up, and of course, everything changes. But when I travel, which I do, of course, when I go speaking, she gets real pushy when I get back. So it's okay. It's part of what makes life fun.
It does, because then it gives you something to look forward to. Because then you come home and you know you have your Stitch there waiting for you to love on her and to be there for you. And that's the beauty of animals. These pets, they really give you the sense of love and need that know that, hey, I still need you. I still love you. And my cat most definitely reminds me that he still loves me and he still needs me because I call him my Mr. Invasive because he be invading my space all the time.
Well, and then there's Alamo, the guide dog. And every time Stitch yells, Alamo gets up. And when I go in to pet her, Alamo decides he wants to go outside. I
Mm.
haven't figured out why he likes to go outside so much, but he does. So it's okay. It's not a problem because his going out is on the way to petting Stitch anyway. But it is kind of funny. They do have their own quirks and peculiarities, but again, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, absolutely. I ended up adopting my sister's dog because she wasn't able to take care of him anymore. So I ended up taking him, and he is needing the loving when the cat gets love. It's so weird. When I give the dog a treat, the cat looks at me like, meow, I need a treat too. And then when I give the cat a treat and not the dog looks at me with his puppy's eyes like, I need some food, I need some loving, I need something. And I'm like, goodness, you two are gonna drive me crazy.
Well, um, Stitch gets treats at night, somewhere around 7 o'clock. And she knows what time it is, but she'll start
Hmm.
between 6 and 6:15 in the evening, yelling. Um, and if I don't go in and deal with it, she's going to get pretty ticked. But the bottom line is, I've told her, you don't get the treats early. Alamo gets his bone at 7, and then we'll give you your treats. But that's the way it's going to be. She, of course, would like to see it different, but it is really a lot of fun, and interacting with them again. I wouldn't have it any other way. They're part of what makes life really fun, and so we all three get to interact together, and I wouldn't have it, as I said, any other way.
Hmm.
So you start, when did you start your podcast?
I started my podcast in 2020, and when I first started it, literally that's when the world started shutting down. Like I
Yeah.
bought all of my equipment, I got everything ready, and then the world was like, "Oh, by the way, everyone has to be at home." So it kind of worked out because when I started it, I was just doing a solo conversation of just sharing my own thoughts and sharing my own opinions, and then halfway through the year, I was just like, hey, if anybody wants to come on my show and speak with me and share your thoughts, let me know. And then the next year in 2021, I started to get people on my show slowly, and then I got pregnant in 22, pregnant in 20 and 21. So in 22 it was really slow for me, and then I got pregnant again back to back, and then it was really slow for me again. And then after I gave birth to both of my boys in 23, 24, and now it's just like been nonstop, just only guests, and now I'm already scheduled out into next year, and it's just been an amazing feeling knowing that I've won awards, I've been acknowledged, and people are seeing the value of thinking.
Hmm, that's pretty cool. How did you end up winning some awards? What kind of awards did you win?
Yeah, I won my first podcast award in 24 for mental health, to help people see that my podcast was to help people with mental health. And then in 25, I won another podcast with mental clarity and I think another creativity. Um, or allows people to just see the creativity of our thoughts and just getting the clarity of our minds and our in the concepts that we bestowed. And then now I got nominated for leisure for
Hmm.
another podcast, but I won't find out until next month if I won or not. So fingers crossed.
Well, we'll keep you in our prayers and hope that that one comes through for you.
Thank you, thank you. Exciting.
So, how many episodes do you do a week?
Right now, this year will be my last year doing 2 episodes in a week, and then next year I will be officially going to 3 episodes,
Hmm.
airing Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Did you start doing 2 episodes a week from the beginning?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
2 episodes a week. It's been my sweet spot. Just because I still have my kids in my life that I still have to maintain and running. So I schedule all of my episodes out. I don't do live stream because I feel like that's a lot of pressure. I don't know. In my mind, live stream is so much pressure versus just pre-recorded episodes where if I messed something up or something got misinterpreted, at least we can edit those situations out and create a better podcast.
ah, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
you're clearly having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I really am. I think every time I speak to a new person, it really brings me this sense of like joy. You know what I mean? Just this joy of just this having a conversation, speaking about life, just speaking about everything and anything that could be spoken about. You know what I mean? I just love interacting with people and just picking their minds and just trying to see how they see life and see the similarities, see the differences and learn. There's so much to learn from other people and from their experiences. And I think if we do ourselves a disservice by not listening. You know what I mean? We always so quick to just jump to conclusions or have selective hearing when it comes to people's conversations. But when we allow ourselves to just be and just listen, it really helps you see life differently in a whole new way.
Well, and I think that's, again, that's really important. And the very fact that you work to communicate with people and you're trying to inspire people, it doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Yeah, no, it really doesn't.
So you do the podcast. How do you come up with new ideas for the content all the time?
To be honest, it's my guest. I get guests from all across the world, from all walks of life, and the concept of if you can think about it, you can talk about it was a real thing that kind of grew. But I mean, but at first, when I first started out my podcast, my main focus was to talk about emotions, taboos, and things of that nature. And people really did approach me with things that they thought were taboos, like finances and working out and all these other things, diet culture, beauty standards, you know what I mean? They all can be taboo in one way or another. But then I started realizing like life is spontaneous. Why not just think about it all? And why not just expand it all? Why just limit myself to one little niche of the corner of our thought process and just allow anything and everything to be heard and valued? So I think that's where allowed a lot of my guests come from different walks of life, and my topics are so vast. Like I just spoke with somebody about ghost hunting, you know what I mean? And I spoke to somebody about animal behavior, and I spoke to somebody else about pet adoption and drugs and addiction and motivation and our thought processes. And it's like there's so much to learn that's like we're doing ourselves a disservice by not thinking. You know what I mean? If we stop thinking.
Yeah. Well, and it's neat to be able to be creative and to be open and having so many different kinds of people come on and talk about so many different sorts of things. I tell people all the time that if I'm not learning at least as much as anybody else when we do a podcast episodes, I'm not doing my job very well.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very true fact because what's the point of podcasting if you're not even gonna learn from somebody else, right?
Yeah. And it's so fun to learn and get to meet so many people and talk about so many different things. It is really definitely a very clever thing to do. So I admit I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So what's the most challenging thing that you can think of that you faced in your career?
I think the most challenging thing that I have faced is myself. You know what I mean? Sometimes we could have that self-doubt, that self of the unknown and psych ourselves out from ever actually stepping into the unknown or even the possibilities by allowing fear to cripple us. And I think when we allow fear to take over our lives, then it hinders us from the possibilities that can come from it. And I think that's what was one thing that that I had to overcome was realizing that my voice does matter, my opinions does matter. What I put out into the world does matter because we can convince ourselves and believe in this narrative that, oh, it's not going to bring no value or nobody's going to listen, no one's going to hear it, no one's going to care. But if we step out into the world realizing like if it's just one person, if I could just help one person out there, then I did my job. And that's how I did my podcast. That's how I did everything that comes out of me. I just think of maybe one person, and as long as I get one person, then I'm okay.
Yeah. Um, and I'm really believe the same thing. If I can make one person more inspired or encourage one person, even one person, I'm good.
Yeah.
Although I think that in reality, we're having a much greater effect than that. But
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that if I can help one person, then I've done what I needed to do. And if I can help more, so much the better.
Yeah, exactly. The more the merrier, right?
Well, there's always that. How do you balance creating content with the rest of your life? You obviously have a lot that you do to put thought into the podcast, and you write, and you got other things to do as well. How does all that work?
I think I try to be realistic with my time. And I try to make the most out of my time in my day. I mean, I know we only have 24 hours in a day, and a good amount of it is sleeping. So I try to be realistic with my time and see the patterns, you know what I mean? Try to catch the patterns in my life to know like my boys, my sons, when they wake up with their routine and where I can work around them. And I realize that in the morning time's my sweet time. I can work out, I could make breakfast, get the boys set and together. Where come the evening or midday I can have for myself so that I can focus on whatever that may be important for the day. So I really try to manage time management when it comes to juggling all the aspects that comes with life, and reminding that it's okay for me to take time for myself. It's okay for me to focus on my work. It's okay for me to focus on just being present with my boys. And I think it's just reminding myself that I'm allowed to do the things that I want to do or that I need to do, and that there's really no rush. And if I don't get to it today, well, then it's okay. Tomorrow's another day. But it's just not being putting so much pressure on myself, because man, I could put so much pressure on myself where I'm like, oh, Mitzi, you're not spending enough time with your kids, or you're not spending enough time in your home and cleaning and taking care of it, or you're not spending much time with your podcast or your writings or things like that. And I realized like beating myself up is not going to help me get anywhere, and just not doing anything and procrastinating isn't helping me get closer to my goals. But learning how to manage my time and doing what I can in my time, then it's okay. It's okay if I only work out for 5 minutes versus 20, 40, 40 minutes. You know what I mean? It's okay if I spend 30 minutes with my kids just so focused and then doing other things. You know, it's okay to do these things, and learning how to dabble into different things, but it's just giving myself the grace to keep going.
How did you learn that wisdom? I mean, that's a very wise attitude to have. What really happened that caused you to develop that mindset?
I think it came down to the fact that I was freaking out. I was freaking out when I had my kids, and I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, I had really bad pregnancy. Like it really took a toll on me where I I had to slow down on my podcast. I had to slow down on other things. I couldn't market, I couldn't promote, I couldn't do all these things. And it took a toll on my heart, like on my health, where I was beating myself up, and I was just like, Mitzi, you need to do more, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then one day I realized I don't need to do anything. I get the advantage to do these things. It's a blessing to have this platform. It's a blessing to have my children. It's a blessing to have my home. And once I switched the flip down on my narrative versus saying I need to, I need to, I need to, I realized no, it's a blessing to have all of this. So once I realized it's a blessing, I was like, okay, then I can see my time differently. I can see the opportunities that I have differently. I can see just life differently. And it really helped me going forward, and still to this day where people will be like complaining, and I'll be like, yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it, but there's also so many other ways to see things. And I think it's also has to do with all of the guests that I've had on my show. Like I've had a lot of guests who has also bestowed not only knowledge on my listeners, but also knowledge on me, to realize that it's okay to just be yourself and to do the best you can in each day that's given.
Yeah. Well, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And by having that kind of an attitude, you take a lot of the pressure off yourself in a sense. You take a lot of the negative pressure off yourself. You already know what you need to do,
Yeah, exactly.
which is so cool. Well, so you have a brand. What is your brand?
Yeah, my brand is called Mitzi Let's Think. And my whole goal is just to help people just think and to think about concepts and life and situations in a way that they probably never had thought about before. It's an amazing, I don't know, it's an amazing but simple concept. It's simple because it's just thinking. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could say just think and it's like duh, there goes the wall, there's a wall, but it's like people don't actually think anymore. There's so much on the surface level of life where they're just doing and being that they're not actually thinking. And I think that's the whole point of my brand is to just to help remind people to just take it slow and just think.
Well, and the reality is, of course, that we spend so much time reacting to things, and as
Yeah.
you said, we don't think, we don't even analyze why did we react this way to that situation or whatever. We don't
Mhm.
do much internalization or introspection, and that's what we really need to do to better understand ourselves, much less understand what goes on around us.
Yeah, absolutely. That internal reflection. I love that those words because it holds so much value. We really don't have that internal reflection. We don't pause for the cause. We don't pause for ourselves. We don't pause for anything. We just react and go, 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 go. And it's like people are just impulsively living. And it's like, it's not a way to live. And I used to live in that manner of just going, going, going. And at the end of the day, I would feel exhausted and not feel accomplished at all. So it's not worth living your life like that.
What's the speaking of brands, what's the best advice you ever received about building a brand?
The best advice I received with building a brand is to do it. And if it's messy, it's okay just to learn along the way. Have that, have that understanding that you're learning. So adjust, always learn how to adjust. You know what I mean? Like there's always a way to adjust your format, there's a way to adjust your projection, there's always ways to adjust, but you have to make the first start. So even if you start messy, it's okay. Just be willing to adjust and not get stubborn and not get entitled and not get this feeling like in your ego that you already know it all. Just always have that spirit of willing to adjust is one thing that I've always took. And when I heard that, it made me gave me so much peace because I felt like I was already doing that, but I didn't know the words for it. So when she told me, I was just like, yeah, I think I'm doing it right. I just got to keep going in that manner. So yeah, that's the best advice.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. You got to start somewhere. And it
Yeah.
might very well be that as you move forward, you'll change what you do, you'll rethink it. But if you're starting from some point and you're using that as a mechanism to learn, you can't do any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about learning and discovery.
Hmm.
Well, so you have written four children's books, and you said you're also writing a novel. We'll get to that, but tell us about the children's books. How did all that come about?
Yes, yes. Well, I always wanted to publish books, and when I I realized that publishing children's books would be a lot faster than publishing my novel because I first started writing my novel and then I realized I want to publish a book now, but not this one because it's not ready. So I was just like, I could do children's books. Why not? I can get to the younger generation. I can help them think. I can help them imagine. I can help them be seen, be valued, and be curious, you know what I mean? And also learn something. And so my first book that I wrote was called Mr. Waters. And it's a book about learning about water and reminding kids to recycle and knowing that glass is reusable and how we use water for almost everything. And which led me to my second book that was inspired by my sister, my little sister. She was just like, Mitzi, you should write another book and have it with a granddaughter and it'll be so much fun and do cute water things. And I was like, you know what, you're right. So with my second book, it was inspired by my little sister. And it's about this little girl with Mr. Waters, her grandpa, and her grandpa has to watch her for a bit. So they go camping and she sees a deer drinking water and she's just like, why is that deer drinking water? And they go to the water park and they deal with all these different types of waters in different forms. And it's just a cute way to remind kids how important water is and how important it is to recycle because it's not just for us, it's also for the environment, it's also for the nature and for animals and for everything that we embody and that we may not interact on a day-to-day level, but to a degree we still have an impact in that life form.
Hmm.
And then my third book was inspired by my dog that recently just passed away, Ontario, rest in peace. It was about his silliness because he used to love eggs. Oh my goodness. He ate eggs all types of way. He knew when I was getting eggs from the refrigerator. He would do a little dance and it was so cute and so silly. So my third book is about my dog loves eggs and it's just the adventures that the dog goes to the extent to just get his eggs in different forms in different ways. So it's a really silly book. And then so it really helps kids think about, oh, what does my dog like? Does my dog like
Yeah.
peanut butter? What does he want to do? What is he willing to do for it? And things like that. So it really helps kids think in that manner. And then my fourth book that just recently published. It's called Job Fair for Angels, and it's really cute. It touches my heart because it's dedicated to my father-in-law who just recently passed. And since he recently passed, I wanted to do something in for the family and for everyone that knew him and loved him. And it's basically about how he died, he goes up to heaven, and when he goes to heaven, he has to find his place amongst the angels and eventually get his wings. So he goes for what I call a job fair and he gets to experience different places that angels get to be. So an angel can be a protector. They can be part of the prayer team and help write down all of your prayers. They could be part of the cheer team and help cheer you on every time you do the right things that God wants you to do. Then and then at the end of the story he finds his place and he gets his wings. So it's a beautiful story.
So your first book was about water. What was the second book?
Oh, and then the second one book was also about water
Also
and
about,
recycling.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wasn't sure about. Well, we had the pleasure a few weeks ago to have as a guest on Unstoppable Mindset Carolyn Grimes. Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
You've seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes.
She was Zuzu when it
Oh,
was originally made.
really?
So whenever a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look at check out that episode. I didn't go that far. That's amazing.
Yeah, I actually work with her. We are part of a group of people that works with the radio enthusiasts of Puget Sound. We'd recreate old radio shows. And so I've been able to have had the pleasure and honor to play different parts in some of the recreations. Couldn't do it last week when they were all up in Washington because I ended up being in Texas speaking, so
Mm,
wasn't able to do it. But it was fun having Carolyn on. Yeah, it's a great episode. And of
awesome.
course, back in 1947, she was Zuzu, so she was the little
Mm.
girl. And
That is
that's
awesome. That is cool that you got into that and that they that you do things like that. That is really cool. That's awesome. How did you get into that?
I have been collecting radio shows for most of my life. And when I was at college at UC Irvine, I played old radio shows for 3 hours every Sunday night. And
Oh,
and in some corners of Orange County where we lived, we competed with 60 Minutes. Some people like 60 Minutes, some people liked our show. So that was kind of fun. But I did that, and so I've always just been building the collection. And um, when I moved back down here from Northern California, I started getting involved with some of the folks down here who play old radio shows, and it turns out they were involved with the radio enthusiasts of Puget Sound reps. And so I started getting involved with it. I'm actually now on the board. It's a lot of fun, and it
nice.
and it keeps me out of mischief mostly.
Right? Yeah, it keeps you busy. That's
It
good.
does, and it does make life kind of fun to be able to do that. So tell me what's something maybe your guests and the people that you deal with on the podcast and so on don't know about you.
Hmm. That is interesting. Something that
Must be
they
something.
don't. I know, right? There must be something. Um, what is something? Do you know what? Something that a lot of people don't know about me is that I used to breed dogs. I used to breed pit bulls,
Hmm.
bullies, and yeah, it was a thing of mine that I did for a while, and it was an amazing adventure. Dealing with dogs and their different personalities and seeing the different things that they liked, and you realize that the breed is actually very calm and docile. It's the people that raise
Yeah.
them that makes them a problem. So it makes it really real. And every time we used to sell the dogs, that was one thing that I was very keen on was making sure that they went to an actual home and not to someone that was just gonna abandon them or use them for ill moments and things like that. So it was so that's one thing for sure as I say that a lot of people don't know about because I don't know, I just don't really talk about it because it was a past. It was something in the past and I kind of just left that in my past.
Well, and pit bulls, I've heard the very same thing. I've never had a pit bull, but I've heard the same thing that you just said, which is, if they're not trained to be aggressive, they generally are not. They are
Hmm.
terriers, and so they can get agitated and react, but so can any dog. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think about Rottweilers as a breed?
Oh, Rottweilers, I feel the same way because I used to actually have Doberman Pinschers, and Rottweilers and Doberman Pinschers, they're pretty similar when it comes to their aggressiveness, and they're considered one of the most dangerous dogs alongside pit bulls, so, but they are lovable, it just depends, can you love them and can you handle them? Oh my goodness, because Rottweilers are
You're
huge.
big dogs. Well, the
Oh my
reason
goodness, they are big.
well, the reason I asked the question was when we, after September 11th, moved back to California. We lived in an area that had a Rottweiler who lived next door to us. His name was Archie. And Archie was friendly, but one day, my wife Karen, who was in a wheelchair her whole life, was out in our front yard. And all of a sudden, Archie saw her and came shooting across his yard into our yard. And Karen was going, "Oh my gosh, I'm dead for sure." And he comes up and he puts his paws on her, and he's going, "Hello." It was so funny. But they're very big dogs. But Archie was very friendly. We all got along very well. And I'm of the same opinion that dogs in general are not interested in being aggressive and mean and so on. You can
Mhm.
teach them that, which is unfortunate. But the reality is that dogs do love unconditionally. And as I've said, they don't trust unconditionally, but they love unconditionally. And the reason I say it that way is that dogs have a gift that we should all take to heart, which
Yeah.
is that while they don't trust unconditionally, they're open to trust. And we tend to not be open to trust because we think everybody's out to get us and all that. Dogs don't do
Yeah.
that unless you just really do something to injure them. Dogs are open to trust and they want to develop a trusting relationship. And when you really truly work to develop that trusting relationship, it's second to none. But it does take work on both sides to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. It does take work on both sides. And I think if more people had a spirit like a dog, then they would have a different type of loyalty. They will have a different type of love and understanding and respect and compassion that just animal. Oh my goodness, dogs have this way of just loving you and just being there for you. Even if you're down in the dumps, they'll still just be there for you,
Yep.
and I don't know. I mean, I've always had animals growing up. And I think just having animals growing up makes you realize that the world is not so cold as you may think it is, you know what I mean? And I think it's the same goes with people. Like A lot of the times people are genuinely kind and genuinely want the best out of you, but it's unfortunate when people are taught to be cold and people are taught to be cruel and people are taught to have this mindset of the selfish greed of it's me, myself, and I. And it's like if we start teaching the world that it's not about your own selfish gains, then you would realize that the world can be a better place to live.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so unfortunate that so many people are taught to mistrust, to not trust, and
Yeah.
not to be open to trust because everyone's going to be out to get you. And
Yeah.
that does happen. But
Mhm.
the fact of the matter is that you can learn to be open to trust. And if somebody betrays your trust, then you recognize that. That's not a person you're going to trust and you move on. But the fact of the matter is that I think that more people truly do want to develop a trusting relationship than don't. And I think that's
Mhm.
what we really need to recognize is that trust is really all around us anyway. I mean, we trust that this podcast is going to continue and we trust that our lights are going to come on when we flip switches and we trust in so many different things. Trust is all around us. And we
Yeah.
really need to be open to finding ways to develop trusting relationships with people. It's just too bad that we're in so many ways taught not to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I like the way that you put that because we really do already trust. We trust that the highway is going to still be standing. We trust that the buildings are still going to be there. We trust that electricity is still going to be running, Wi-Fi is still going to be running. We trust that we're going to have food still in the supermarkets. You know what I mean? We trust these things, and yet we don't know the real ins and outs of all of it, you know? And I think when we start seeing that type of trust in smaller increments, then people can start seeing the things in life in a whole new way. And I think just having these type of conversations really
Mhm.
helps people just see things in a different way.
Who are your biggest influencers and inspirations?
Who are my biggest influencers and my inspiration? Honest to goodness, I would have to say my faith in God. Um, I I know that may be a little bit corny for people,
Well,
but it's the truth. I mean, they it says it in the Bible to be more like Jesus, and I realize the more I try to be like him and not like people of this world, I have a sense of peace. And then when I go out into this world, people, they don't see me, they see the God in me. You know what I mean? They
mhm.
see that I'm trying and they see that I'm giving other people grace and they see the forgiveness, they see all these things. And I think that's the true role model, you know, is a higher being because man, life is hard. People are only going to be able to do what they can, and I think it's hard to put people on a pedestal when when they're just trying the best that they can, you know, and sometimes they're going to mess up. Sometimes they're not going to say the right thing. Sometimes they're not going to do the right things, but one thing is for certain is God is always making sure everything is done rightly and correctly. We may not understand it right away, we may be confused on how this is going to be for my own good, but with time, when we allow time to shift our perspective, we can see where God is working. We can see how God is has changed our lives and changed our heart, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. It's really very true that God is all around us, God is in us. And the fact of the matter is that I think all too many people don't spend enough time listening to their internal voice, which
Yeah.
can guide them. A lot of times when people mess up, you might hear later, well, I thought maybe that was the right answer, but that just came too easy. So I did something else and it wasn't the right answer. And that happens way too often because we haven't learned to have faith or trust our
Hmm.
inner voice, which is
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, you said it exactly to the T. You're right. We have a lot of doubt, and then when we lean on that doubt, or we try to find answers to prove our doubt, that instead of proving God in our lives, proving God is still with us, proving God's word, then we are ending up in our own demise, sadly.
common misconception that people have about being a podcaster or an influencer?
That it's easy and that it's simple. And I think and I feel like people think all that we have to do is just talk and ask questions and that's it. But in reality, there's so much more that comes to podcasting and influencing that people don't realize that happens behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like we have to do our edits, we have to do the concepts, we have to do our publishing, our marketing, you know what I mean? We have to do everything that our heart desires or and also remember what it's gonna how it's gonna impact, who it's gonna impact, and when it's gonna impact. And I think a lot of the times people don't consider that because they're just reacting with life like we talked about earlier and they're not trusting the process. And I think people also expect that, oh, you're gonna have millions of followers and millions of downloads and all these things right away. But it's like, no, you work your way there. Like I remember when I only had one download in a month. You know what I mean? I remember how that felt, and I was
Mm-hmm.
ecstatic with just having that one download in the month. But now where I am now, and I have more downloads in a day, and it's just like it's a whole different feeling because it gives you this sense of gratitude knowing that I am making a difference. I am seeing something. I am influencing more. And it's just like we have to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that one day something will change. One day we will finally see the impact, but it's just being consistent. You know what I mean? And as long as we are consistently showing up in the world in a manner that helps people also feel seen, heard, and valued, then it's all gonna work out. But we have to just hold that to ourselves as well.
For you, what's been the most rewarding part of building your community?
Knowing that people are thinking. I mean, since my whole concept is about thinking, I think it's all about knowing that other people have that moment of, wow, I didn't think about this before, or I didn't ever considered it in this type of way, or I didn't know the words to this. I mean, I think it's so beautiful because I get people from all across all walks of life, from all over the world, and you can be in Australia and hear me, and you can relate to somebody that I spoke to in the UK, and it really just makes people realize like we are all the same in one way or another. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you were born, how you were born, and what you look like, how you talk. I mean, it all matters that we're human, and I think just being human is an amazing thing that we all need to embrace.
Well, you put yourself out there every time you do a podcast and so on, which is fine, and you're used to doing that. How do you handle negative feedback or online criticisms? I'm assuming you get some of that.
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't? But I take it with a grain of salt. I realize that I'm not made for everybody, and I think we need to hold that true to ourselves, is that we are not made for every human being on this world. And as long as we know that, then we will be okay with the naysayers and the negative speakers and the trolls that they call them on the internet because they have an opinion. And if they're speaking out of place of hate, well, then they have to deal with that hate one way or another. Or if they're coming from a place of confusion or disturbance, well, then one way or another, they're going to have to face up and figure out the real narrative of their life. But it's not my job to convince them to change their perspective. It's not my job to convince them to like me. It's not my job to convince them to do anything. It's just my job to just be me. And I think if more people just realize that I'm just supposed to just be me as I am, then they'll have a different appreciation when it comes to seeing the people that are negative. Because if they're negative, then it's okay. Then that's just not my people. And as long as there's billions and trillions of people in this world, why get caught up on one, two, three, four, five people who don't agree with you or don't see you as the amazing human being that you are? You just keep it going and know that there are people who value you. There are people who see you. There are people who care. And I think when we switch our flip in that narrative, then we will not get so tied up and do drastic things because somebody says one mean thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the reality is, of course, that, and I think you probably agree with this, our job as podcasters isn't to convince.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is to tell stories, to inspire, to put something out for people to think about. And
Yeah.
they can choose and have the right to and should choose how they want to think about it. It's like I talk about the World Trade Center. We had
Hmm.
no control over the World Trade Center events on September 11th happening, but every single person has total control over how they decide to deal with the events of the World Trade Center. And it's like every podcast that you do or I do. The fact of the matter is that what we're trying to do is to present something, and people can choose how they decide to deal with it. And that's fine. Their choice is whatever it is. And it's not my place, by the way, to judge them either.
Exactly, exactly. I agree. It's not our place to judge them. It's just our place to provide them another outlet to think about. And as long as they know that that outlet's available in a podcast, in a blog, in a book, in whatever form that they are judging or discerning, I mean, they need to have that discernment for themselves. Yeah, I agree.
What's one thing that you hope that your audience takes away from your podcast and your content?
Um, that not only just to think, not only to think, but also to be inspired, to wonder, and for that curiosity to be ignited again. Because that sense of curiosity, that sense of creativity, that sense of imagination can die when we have experienced so much hardship in our lives. And I am no stranger to hardship. And I know you're no stranger to hardship either. So I think just having that curiosity be ignited, that sense of somebody sees me, hears me, values me in a way that they don't ever would know. I think that's what really sparks my joy is knowing that somebody's out there just knowing that life can go on in a different manner.
Yeah. Well, and then that's as it should be. One thing we have not talked about, and you've alluded to it, so we've got to talk about it a little bit at least, is in addition to your children's books, let's talk about your novel. What is that all about?
Yes, my novel. Oh my
Your
goodness,
great
it's great.
American novel.
Yes, my novel. I'm working on this novel. It's called Disgrace, and it's basically when you read it, you're supposed to find the disgrace amongst the characters because a lot of the times people will be able to point out disgraceful things, disgraceful actions, disgraceful habits, traits, whatever on other people, but they fail to see that on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I wrote this novel and that I'm still writing it and I'm finalizing. I promise you I'm finalizing. It's almost done. Um, that it's just to help people realize not to judge, you know what I mean? Not to judge and to consider their own disgracefulness that they may have within themselves and to provide grace not only to yourself but to other people that you may think are disgraceful because you don't know what they were given and you don't know why they act the way they do and you don't know what motivates them and we don't know anybody's real narrative. Sometimes we just assume a lot of the times, and a lot of the times those assumptions are wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the times those assumptions may be right, but majority of the times they fall on the wrong side of the spectrum. So it's just like this book is to really help people think deeper about their thought process and how they choose to judge others in the world.
There you go. If
Mhm.
people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Oh, you could check out my website, mitzythinking.com, and
MitziThinking.com. Okay.
Mitzi Think Inc. So it's
Oh, Think
thinkinc.com.
Inc. Okay.
Yeah, Think Inc.
MitziThinkInc.com.
Yeah,
Okay.
at mitzythinking.com, or you can email me directly at letstalk.mitzi@gmail.com. And it's all about thinking, my whole thing. So yeah, let's think about it together, whatever that you want to think about.
Super. Well, that's cool. Well, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of you for listening. I found this very enjoyable and learned a lot, and it helps to always put things in perspective. So I hope that this has been helpful for everyone. Wherever you're listening or watching, please give us a 5-star review on Unstoppable Mindset. We value your reviews and your comments very well and a great deal. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at Michael H.I., Michaelhi, at Accessibe, ACCESSIBE.com. And also, of course, if you know of anyone who ought to be a guest or that you think should be a guest on the podcast, we would love to hear from you. Mitzi, you as well. If you have any thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from your your suggestions, and we will bring them on the podcast and have a good time. But again, I want to thank you for being here today. This has been absolutely enjoyable, and I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Yes, likewise. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate this. Super enjoyable.